Well, hello again, Jazz, and welcome everybody who has tuned in with us today. Welcome to our Lunch Out Loud. So, Lunch Out Loud is our live recording of our podcast that we do here at City Point in Ipswich. We do these once a week. Jazz and I get together on a Tuesday. We talk about the Bible. We talk about how is this even relevant? Is it relevant? We do that together once a week, and essentially we call it this, but really what this is my excuse to do a bit of discipleship with Jazz, and it is great fun because we just have no holds barred. We go right at it. We look at it. There's no cheap answers to what we do here. We must give a proper answer, and we ask the tough questions. We make sure that we land somewhere that actually is practical every single week. And this week, we are joined by a very special guest, a good friend of both Jazz and I. For those out there who don't know, this is a great friend of City Point and a great friend of City Point Ipswich, one of our worship leaders out there, musically incredibly talented, our youth pastor, along with his wife, Courtney. Please make Emeka feel welcome. Yeah. I do have clap.
Thanks for having me.
Is that the clap sound, Jazz? Did that come through?
Oh, no, I didn't hear it.
Oh, hang on. What is that? A round of applause for Emeka?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We've got this thing sorted. Today, I invited you on, Emeka, because a lot of people don't realize this about you. But you've got a heck of a story of resilience. You've got a heck of a story about how to overcome the odds. But more than that, you've actually managed to get quite successful in life now and in quite an enviable position for a lot of people. You started developing a bit of a property portfolio.
Yeah.
I don't know that you would necessarily have been telling too many people that, but you have. You've had a couple of businesses that you have been a part of that you've learned some incredible lessons from. You have built probably the single most successful lunchtime program that I've ever witnessed, a Bible-based one in a high school. You've done some pretty significant things, and you've had to overcome some pretty significant adversity. So Jazz and I, I hope, we'll find out how fun it has been. And Jazz and I really wanted to be able to get you on today to speak and really hear from you around how you do it. You are, without doubt, one of the best and the most frustrating leaders that I have ever worked with. You have given me great delight and driven me absolutely crazy. Hey, don't forget, you can engage with this. You can interact with this and ask us any questions that you like along the way here as well. So if you would like to hear or know anything about how Emeka has done anything specifically as we're talking, just feel free to ask. But Jazz, we're asking, you know that verse that with man this is impossible, but with God all things are possible?
Yeah.
Do you reckon that's one of those verses that's just used in churches all the time that feels nice, but we don't ever actually test it?
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah.
Okay, let me start by asking you, do you believe that verse, Jazz, that with God all things are possible?
Like, to be completely honest,
Uh-huh.
I, at the moment, don't have that conviction.
What a great amount of honesty. Right
Yeah, that is great. Okay, I think that you represent a large group of people. What do you think God is capable of, and what do you think you just like, I know you say, I know it's supposed to say that I can or whatever, but I just don't.
I think for me, it's just like at the moment, I'm really struggling through a lot of promises that I've been given. And, I grew up in church. While most people in like, when I went to uni and everything, most people were spending their Saturday nights out at parties and at clubs, and I was still going to youth group. So for me, it's been like I've had a lifetime, I can pretty much say a lifetime of promises, and I'm still waiting for them to come to pass. So at this season that I'm in right now, it's just really that, okay, Lord, you said you'd do it. I haven't seen it yet. I don't know what, I'm just like, I don't really know.
The reason, and you and I spoke about this beforehand, and I really encourage you to be honest, because I think that this actually represents a whole bunch of us, right? And it's through our mess and through our chaos that people are going to learn, right? And so that's what this whole program is designed for. What's what this podcast is designed for. We're not taking cheap, pretty answers. Okay? And there's no cheat sheet. So, okay. All I want to know now, Jazz, is give us one without giving any personal details of example of where it's like, whatever, I know I'm supposed to trust you. And you mentioned something about this to me on the phone where instead of going, yeah, God, all things are possible, I'm going to trust in you, you just cried your way through it.
Wow.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like even just that I know that I have a call of social justice on my life. But I've pretty much asked the Lord to take that away because I just don't know how he's going to bring about what needs to be brought about to actually make the pain that I'm going through in recognizing that over my life. The pain at the moment doesn't feel worth it.
Okay, now there's a great point. Here's where we're going to bring in Emeka. So being involved in social justice means that inevitably that you're going to face pain and frustration and heartbreak. Yeah? Yeah? Agreed?
Yeah.
Right. Emeka, do you know anything about having to face some pain or heartbreak or difficult situations?
I've never encountered any pain or heartbreak or a difficult situation.
All right, so I'll ask somebody else. No. Emeka, come on now. Let's get to it. So tell me, your story you weren't born in Australia.
No, I wasn't.
I
was born in Sierra Leone.
Okay, so for those who don't know where Sierra Leone is, can you describe to us where that is?
Great question. I know my geography, so I'll make a good attempt at this. It's in West Africa. That's about all I know. No, it's in West Africa. It's a coastal sort of country, very, very small country, very war-torn. A lot of things have gone down in that country. In fact, I don't want to jump ahead, but my father passed away when we were in Sierra Leone. And a lot of times when I talk about that, people go, oh, he must have been killed in the wars because there were so many wars there. And I guess like I was in the thick of wars. I remember when you talk about like adversity, I remember one particular thing when my father, the army at the time broke into our house, and got my mom out and got my dad out and asked them to get on their knees, and told them that they could not move. Just stand there, don't move, or we'll shoot you. And my mom.
We're about to be joined by another very special guest.
Yep.
Michael. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Michael. And another one, Amani.
There you go. I have kids around me all the time. So
that's all right. There's going to be that scene where we're going to be like, look who's at the door waiting for you guys.
All right.
There you go. All right. Bye, kiddos.
Good
luck. Yeah.
Michael, Daddy, will see you soon. Yes. Back to my story.
Yeah, so you're in war-torn Sierra Leone where you grow up. Your father passed away, but not from war.
Not from war.
But I remember you telling me this story. So how old were you at the time?
I think I would have been about 5 when you're talking about when the army.
Yeah. So you're 5 years old, and was it the army or was it rebels?
Look, it was rebels at the time.
Okay, so they're going from house to house. What are they doing when they're going from house to house?
They're looking for Nigerians, which my father happens to be.
For what purpose?
Because they believe that the Nigerians had come to their country and had taken all of their business and their resources, so they wanted to annihilate.
So they were going to kill any Nigerian.
Any Nigerian.
So they're going house to house. They're literally killing Nigerians. Your dad's Nigerian.
Yeah.
They come into your house. Yeah. But your dad's not just Nigerian. There's something else that was quite significant about your father too.
He was a pastor.
Right. So your dad is a Nigerian pastor.
An evangelist. Yeah. He went around sharing God's word, opening churches. That was sort of his calling and his mission.
Okay. So you're there. You witness these rebels come into your house.
Yep.
There's no way your dad... how does... Obviously, you said he didn't die in the war or anything like that. So how does he get out of this situation?
So this is in the thick of war. My dad, first thing he tells me is to go hide under the bed. And I run and go and hide under the bed. And I remember sort of listening, and then I was super curious because that's what you are when you're 5. I sort of run and peep through the window, and I see my dad kneeling down, and I can see they've broken through and gotten into the house, and they're pointing the gun at my dad and my mom, and really atrocious things go on during those times. So anything could have happened at this point. Then at this point, someone else opened the door, and another one of the rebels, but like the rebel commander, opened the door and barged inside and was like, "All right, let's in Creole, obviously, let's kill this whoever this is," and has this shock look when he sees my dad, and he goes, "It's Pastor Edwin." We can't. We can't do that. We cannot kill Pastor Edwin. He's a pastor, so he ended up being that they actually left some people at the gate to protect our home to make sure no one else come back in. So that's
so hang on a minute. So it went from your dad's about to be killed to now your whole family's protected.
Yeah.
Okay. But what was that like for you as a 5-year-old? Like, because that's Jazz, I'm gonna take a stab in the dark. You haven't had an experience like that?
No,
me either. I'm with you on that. I've never had to hide under the bed.
Yeah.
So what's going through your mind as you're watching this transpire?
I'm probably freaking out a little bit. I thought my dad was he's a gunner. I mean, I was 5, so there's not much to go through. Like, I really fully believed in my dad. I was like, he'll be fine. Like, whatever will happen, because my dad was that sort of character. But I was scared for my mom, but I was like, oh, well, like, my dad would protect us all. And it turned out being a pastor is ace.
Yeah. So, okay. So then you get through that situation, but your father still passes away at some point. Talk me through that process.
Yeah. So I was about 7 years old. And my father, on a Sunday morning, he normally gets called out to go preach at different churches. So he was then asked to go preach at this particular church one Sunday, but we had to go to our normal church. We come back from church and he doesn't return home. And we say to mom, because the last thing my dad said to me that morning was, he said, I really, really wanted to go to this new store that I just opened up in Sierra Leone called McDonald's. This was in like 99 or something, or 2000, 99, I believe it was. And he said, I'll take you there after church today, because we tried the previous week, but just didn't happen. And so, interestingly enough, he didn't return to take me, so I was a bit bummed. So I asked mom, and then mom had to go to the hospital. Someone had to come look after us. And then from that, like, we went to school on Monday. Then it was Tuesday. There was still no dad, but dad traveled a lot, so it wasn't that different.
So you didn't notice? I
didn't really notice that much.
So how many days had passed before you found out what actually happened?
Well, okay, so Wednesday, I wasn't going to school on Wednesday. I was told we had to stay home.
Yeah.
I started seeing people coming over, and just to say, people started crying, coming over and crying, like in mass amount. And I was like,
and you're 7 years old.
Yeah. So I would have probably been about 6 at this point, because I think I transitioned to 7 once I got to, it was later in that year I turned 7. So it's just like all these people coming around. I honestly still don't know what's going on. We have family over that comes and takes me and my siblings to a different house because we couldn't be around and what's going on. I just keep playing. I'm a child. I don't even really care about what's going on. Like, it is what it is. And then it was honestly months later, I went to a service, which turned out that was my dad's funeral service.
No way. You literally did not know you were at your dad's funeral.
Nah, there was honestly probably a part of me who would have heard things and just was in denial. I was also like 6 or 7. I didn't care.
6 or 7, you still know what's going on when your dad dies, man.
No one is saying anything to us. Everything is just hush hush. Like, I'm like, everyone's crying. There's all these things happening, and yeah. It wasn't like until we got to Nigeria, and one of my cousins is like, so your dad's died, how do you feel? I'm like, what do you mean? Like, what is dying?
Wow.
Coming back? When is he coming back?
Wow.
Yeah. So
So your dad dies, and I know your story. I'm hearing new parts of it here as well about some parts of this. But then you get taken away from your family, and this is quite a interesting experience that you have here, and it emotionally affects you.
yeah.
Can you talk me through some of what? Because give us a really brief idea of what happens. So you get taken away, and essentially you get treated like your family is. So not your immediate family, but
No.
this other family that you're now living with. You get treated like their servant.
Yeah. So I essentially became a slave for the household that I was taken to. So it was essentially like a kidnapping that was organized, and we were taken away from my mom. My mom had no clue that we were being taken until she couldn't find us.
Wow.
And then we thought we were going on a holiday until we got here, and they we weren't going home. We thought it was a great holiday because it was Christmas until after Christmas. Then everything changed, and it didn't feel like a holiday anymore. It felt like really, just really difficult. Like I started having to do all this housework, and I went to bed late. I was only given food when I'd done a certain amount of chores. Um, in hindsight, it looked a lot like slavery. Back then, I don't know what this is. I'm just gonna sort of like do whatever I'm doing.
You share with me some of the stories of times where you've been sort of laying on your own, and this is where, Jazz, you were talking about the pain and some of that resilience. You've talked to me about times where you were just so aware of the injustice as a kid, and laying on your bed just wishing you were gone, like wishing you were dead, or times where you would be laying there and just be like, why?
There's definitely one distinct moment that I always recall every time I think about that part of my life. I ended up getting out of there when I was about 10, I believe. Yeah, either 10 or 11. Finally got out of there. So I was there from about 8 to 11. And so things progressively got worse, and the way we were treated.
Wow.
And obviously, as a 10-year-old, you start to understand a bit more, because now it meant that I suddenly had to grow up and really protect my siblings and really look after them, be a father to my younger ones, because there was no mum there, and the family we were with wasn't really protecting us. We were just like, they understood they were young, so they didn't have to do anything, but I had to do everything.
When you say everything, talk us through what that means, because I think for most people who are watching this, everything looks like stacking the dishwasher or putting some clothes in an automatic washing machine. So talk me through you know what I mean? Like, did you mean ordering Uber Eats? Like,
no, that would be nice, but not quite. So like, you think about the way. Oh,
just give me a brief rundown. Give me an idea of what a day's worth of chores or work would look like.
I'll have to wake up. Normally I'll be up by 4, so I'll then put what's called gallons. They're about 20-liter gallons, about 4 of them. You put them in a wheelbarrow, and then you ride them to fetch water. Water is about 10 kilometers away. So you ride the barrow there, you fetch water, and you have to be back before it's time to get ready for school and all that sort of stuff. You get to the water site, there's heaps of people to fight with to get water, and then you line up, you eventually get water, you ride back home, and it's hard work. Like,
well, that's 80 kilos. Like you're riding back with 80 kilos.
Yeah, but it's a wheelbarrow, so it's fine. Like, you're already tired though, and then you offload it, you pour it into the big gallon, depending on how empty the water tank got for the day. Like, would depend on how early I need to wake up, because I needed to do that trip a number of times. So you will fill up that container. We fill it up. Then we'll have a shower. Then I'll have to, at that point when I return, I'll wake my siblings up, shower them, get all the children up as well, because it wasn't just my siblings. I also had another 4 younger ones that were the children of the family we were living with, but I looked after everyone. I wake them up. Then we had another lady who prepared food. Either that or I'll be giving money to go buy food. So food is like now like a couple of kilometers away. Then I'll walk there, buy food in uniform, come back. We'll be share food. We eat food. And then I will then have to hold my siblings and walk with them to school, which is like the most insane thing when I think about it now, because it's like, there was so much bad driving, and I'm like not even 10.
Wow.
And I'm in charge of like 4 kids, having to walk them home, walk them to school and back from school. And we had to be at school on time, had to be back at school, back home on time. And any one of these things, should any one of these things go wrong.
Then you're at school in the day, come home. Is there more chores in the afternoon?
Yeah, absolutely. The one distinct moments I remember is one day I came back from school after a very long day. I'd been bullied at school and all sorts of stuff had gone wrong. There's a bit of story around my schooling events as well, but I come home and my auntie's like, you got to do dishes, otherwise you can't. There's no food for you. And I have this crippling headache, worst headache I've ever experienced in my life. And I was starving, obviously, because you don't take lunch to school,
sure.
You don't have food. But it was late because we had to walk back, and it was very late. It was like 5 p.m. So then I was stuck outside doing these dishes. I remember that day crying, like, I can't believe, like, what has happened? Where's my father? Like, why am I here? Who are these people? Why are they doing this to me? I'm going to die. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to die. Like, this is the end of my life. But whatever. I'm just going to keep doing the dishes so I can eat some food. That's probably one of the most distinct memories. Because I remember praying in that moment as well. Like, God, you're real. Actually, I'm not asking for much. Just take this headache away. Like, just take the headache so I can do this. Like, I don't care about anything else. Just the headache. Let it be gone.
And the headache?
I probably didn't go. It didn't go until I went to sleep that night.
Wow.
So,
all right. So you've had these horrendous experiences, and like for most people, you would completely excuse them if they crawled into a corner and spent the rest of their life in, some sort of rehabilitation and mental health institutions. And in your family, you've seen a variety of responses, to be fair.
Yeah.
Why or how have you turned into a person who has had a incredible journey, which obviously you came over here to Australia, you end up joining the Air Force, you end up being a electrical engineer in the for the C-17s in the Air Force. You do incredibly well there, but you face again some really, and we don't have time to go into all the adversity that you faced there. But it seems to me that you faced a series of adversities. How do you even believe in God in all of that? And then secondly, how are you not a mess? Like, how do those two?
Maybe I'm a mess. You just don't know it. No, I think
that's a fair point. That's a fair point. You cannot be any worse than Jazz and I, though.
How do I still believe in God? Because honestly, God got me through every single one of the moments that I've been through. And I think one of my dear verses that I hold very close to my heart is the simple idea of that to those whom are called according to his purpose. God loves those who are called according to his purposes. He will work all things together for your good. And so that verse, like, I've held it in every single scenario I found myself. A lot of those nights in my bed in Africa as a 10-year-old boy, like, I read my Bible back to front. I just did reading the thing.
You know that's the wrong way to read it, don't you? Like, you read it front to back.
Yeah, black. So no, like I did a lot of that stuff, and I read, and as I continue to understand that who God was, to be fair, my picture of who God was really tainted by what I had experienced, but also by the culture of who this Jesus was that was presented to me at the time. It was a really tough guy, and you got to do the right thing to be loved by him. That's what I saw being outworked around me. So I try my best to do the right thing and to do a good thing, and it always seemed to fall apart. And it's been really interesting for me that and as I journey through life, and I've learned that actually he will work things out together for good once he loves you and you're called according to his purpose, that he will be there for you regardless of what you're going through. And that's just that.
Which is one of your key verses, right? One of your key life verses.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm so interested, like I said, because this whole verse are all things are possible for, with God, all things are possible.
Yeah.
I look at you when you're 10 years old and I think to myself, if I'm 10 years old and it was in Nigeria, I'm on a mattress on the floor or on a creaky old spring, in Nigeria, I've just had to do the dishes to get a bit of food. I'm not thinking one day I'm going to be in a position where I own multiple properties, where I'm working on businesses, where I'm a key leader in a church, where I've helped plant a church. Like that's so far from my imagination. So how did you get from like point A to point B, I suppose? Some people go, you just got to have a vision and a this and a goals and a this and a that and the other. What's some of your secrets of how you do it?
I think
You've quietly built a property portfolio. You've quietly gone and owned businesses that no one would know about. You're just like, oh, by the way, I bought another business. Oh, by the way, I own another business. Now, don't get me wrong. They're not all successful.
Yeah. I think it's learning that with God, all things are possible. And for me, like all of those things that I have been through, and I just really want to be careful to be real and not sound like very super scriptural.
But just be real. But if the answer is scriptural, that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, one of the things we found, hey, Jazz, is that sometimes the Bible actually does have the answer.
Yeah. I think every single one of the things I've been through just strengthened me to do the next thing that I did. I think every hard time that I faced in Africa literally was my stepping stone to becoming the person I became next.
Right.
And so I can safely say that I honestly never had a grand plan of where I intended to be when I intended to be there. But what I knew was that if I had God, then I would just figure out whatever purpose he has for me and follow that pathway.
Yeah.
And as long as I continue to do that, I just let him take the lead on every next step I take. And that happens just that way.
Is that your nature, to let God take the lead?
No.
That's one thing I will say about Emeka, okay? One of the things I've noticed about you is you are so resilient. And whenever I've said to you in the past, there's no way that we can do this thing, Emeka, your answer is...
Yeah, sorry. Usually I'm like, okay, we'll see.
You never say okay. You negotiate, and then you try begging, and then you up yourself and hand me an invoice and say, I already did it. I'm like, what are you doing? You're killing me.
Honestly, that's just come from everything that has happened in my life, where like I got so many no's and I started to see a world of possibilities. So for me, like I've been shot down for loans. Like building a property portfolio is not an easy thing when you're like 27. Yeah, I'm 27. Like banks
27, married with 2 kids.
Yeah.
Like they see the liabilities.
Yeah, they just go, no, it's not. No, what do you do? Like that's just not a thing. But you just don't stop there, because I think like if everyone who was told a no just stopped there, then things are just not going to happen. Bearing in mind, sometimes it's okay to stop. And I think God has taught me a lot. And working with you is one of the greatest things I have personally been able to do in my life, to work with this guy and the people that are around him, because it just taught me that sometimes it's okay to just wait on God and just let him move slowly. Because I know heaven knows that sometimes I'm in a rush. Like I'm just like,
yeah. Jazz, can you relate to any of what Emeka's saying so far? How do you go, Jazz, when God tells you no?
I don't do well.
Talk us through it. What do you do when God tells you no?
Like literally, I will get very upset. I don't take it well at all. I don't like being told no.
You ever tried negotiating? I do that a lot with God.
No, I will outright do what I want, and it doesn't work out.
How does that go for you? Yeah.
Not well.
Okay, so here's, I suppose, where I want to go. And somebody actually made this comment earlier. Let me see if I can bring it up here. This was... So for those who don't know, this is a live podcast. We do this every Tuesday at 12 o'clock, and you can engage with us as a part of this conversation on Facebook. And this person, Amy, says, all things are possible with God. Yes, if it is within God's will for that thing to happen and you're obedient. And there you go there, Jazz, as well. There's a private comment there for you that you can read and as well. But absolutely, I think this is part of it here, is that if we actually are obedient, and this comes down to that idea of trusting in God and trusting in God's timing. Your pilot's license is a great example. One of your dreams that you've probably had since a kid is to be a pilot. And I remember you and I have had many a conversation about the timing of it, about whether it's a wise time or whether it's the right time. And
God has certainly taught me that there's a difference between good and wise. And sometimes the good thing to do is not always the wise thing to do. And so for me, wanting my pilot license was one of the things I was just like, I have always dreamed of this. And then literally just last year, the doors just flung wide open, giving me the opportunity to chase this and the full opportunity. But then as that door opens, I started just experiencing all the things that, and I started shifting and all the things started taking place. And I talked to Sima about it. I was like, I don't understand what this is. I thought God's like, you can go for it now. And that's when we started talking about what's good versus what is wise versus the timing of God and understanding where his timing sits. And because God is a gracious God and he leaves us to make those timing, those decisions, those choices. And sometimes it's the hardest things for us to do, but that's where trust comes down to. Because if he says that all things are possible with him, you got to trust him that he says that. And so for me, I know that my pilot license is going to be possible with him, but I got to trust him. And that's hard, but because it will take time. And my time will not line up with his time. And I know that lady said the thing about be careful that it's not the generational promise. Sometimes I try to negotiate with God. It's a thing I legitimately do. Like Moses negotiated with God. It didn't change God's character. God's fundamental character did not change, but it did. The Bible said God relented. And so for me, I love that verse. I'm just like, I think I should maybe relent on this.
Send me that scripture.
I fully can understand that that's how you live your life, Emeka. I know for a fact that's how you live your life. I've learned actually a lot from that process though as well. So I want to kind of start to get us to a landing point here at some point. Talk us through some of the things that you've done, because I think that this is important for all of us to be able to work this out, is to work out how do we actually, what are the practical things? What are the tangible things that you do to help trust in God, or maybe to help develop that resilience? So you've been knocked back for loans, you've had failed businesses, you've had difficult times to overcome, you've faced racism, you've faced adversity, you've faced just so many uphill battles. You've been
it keeps happening, it's still happening.
Yeah, I mean, your father passed away, you were in a war-torn situation, 5 years old, watching people hold a gun to your dad's head. Like your life is ridiculous. Like it is insane. And you're like, yeah, no big deal, laugh it off, smile it off. That aside, which is a conversation it's on its own, I want to know.
We need cancellation for you.
Well, yeah, I want to know, how do we go from being in a place where it's like, oh, well, that door closed, I'm over it, to that door closed, I'm going to kick down a wall if I need to, but I'm getting into that next phase. I maybe somebody's out there and they're wanting to buy their first house. Maybe somebody's out there and they're about to take a step into owning their first business. And it seems like there's obstacles. How do you not give up?
Great question, because God just reminded me of the exact story for the answer of this. So a while ago, God showed me a vision. Because I built up this resilience over time, I tend to love to kick down walls. I almost enjoy it. But God showed me this vision one night when I was sleeping, and we were in our bedroom. I was in my bedroom at home, and I was on the bed, and I got up and became really, really agitated. I wanted to leave the room, but there were 5 different doors, one leading outside to the balcony, one leading to the ensuite, one leading outside to the hallway, 4 doors, and then one leading to a walk-in wardrobe. And God was like, I know you want to go, but I need you to stay in the room for now. And for me, that just made no sense, because like there's so much more I could be doing with my time. There's so much more I could be accomplishing, but I just wanted to go. And God said to me, if you sit down and find peace in where I have you right now, you will actually enjoy being there, because look around and see what's around you right now. When I looked around the bedroom, there was a book on my bedside table that I've been meaning to finish for like God knows how long. I just haven't got around to it. It was like, you could read that. I was like, oh, well, not that one. I think I had my phone with me. He said, you could look something up. I said, no, I don't want to do that. And he kept showing me one thing after the other that I could do. in where I was, and I just wasn't I just wanted to go somewhere else. And eventually God kept saying, yep, I'm hearing you want to go there, but if you just stop, you will find peace in where you are right now.
Wow.
So for me, this is how I make my decisions in everything I go. Obviously, it's great to seek wise counseling. It's great to talk to people that have been there, that have done it, that have the godly heart to lead you. But I think the second, well, not but, and the second part of that, you taught me that, never say but. The second part of that is find peace in what you are being led to do, judging it not on the scale of good versus bad, but good versus wise, because ultimately we can judge. Like, it wasn't a bad thing for me to leave the rooms. Like, what's so bad about going into my ensuite? Like, I tried every door, but every door was locked. It wasn't a bad thing for me to go into my ensuite, but at the time, I didn't need to pee. I didn't need to do anything. Like, I didn't need a shower. But why do I want to go there? I just want to go into a room because it's something different to go to.
Yeah.
And so eventually what I learned from, and God taught me out of that dream, was stay and be okay. And once I stayed and had peace with that, I started seeing that the next thing I do came out of that place of peace.
Wow. Okay. I was wondering where you were going with this, right? And then when you just said that, it makes total sense.
Yeah, okay.
That if you actually can, so to bring it into like this, you know, summary of what you're trying to say here, is if you're okay to stay where you are, you'll be able to discover your next step because you've got a piece. You'll be able to discover the right next step based on what is actually there right then and there. For instance, if you're in that room that you were in that vision, you might have been, hey, look at your phone. Your battery's about to die. So the next step is to actually go and get the charger.
Yeah.
Not just go into the ensuite because it's the next place to go.
Yeah.
But to actually go, where is the next step based on what I have around me
And I think
now?
It comes down to, if all things are possible with God, trust that it is possible with him and just let him work that out for you. And I think, like, so often people say, oh, God is in control of everything. Well, actually, he's in charge. You're in control.
Wow.
And he gives you...
He's in charge. You're in control. If you're watching this or listening to this, you should write that down. Stop and take a moment. There's a few things that you could have written down today. There's a difference in good versus wise. That's a great one. Be okay to stay, to be able to determine your next step.
Yeah.
And then that one, what was that one again?
I didn't even remember. You said it just
Jazz,
before.
what did I say?
God's in charge, but you're in control.
God's in charge, but you're in control.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so, like, eventually he let me, once I sat down and I started enjoying the room, I realized that, as a matter of fact, I needed to stay in the room to wait so that I can get my phone charged, so that then I can go downstairs and get in the car and go to what he needed me to go. But if I'd gone to the bathroom, I would have gone there, and who knows if the door would have locked.
Yeah.
And then I'm stuck in the bathroom with nothing really to do. I don't have a phone. I don't have any way of contacting. But you just stay and have peace and just let him make that. Because if you submit your life to him and give him that control, that authority to act on your behalf, he will do that, leaving you in control, but he will act on your behalf. And for me, like, so many times I've learned that, I mean, it's an ongoing journey. No one is perfect at this by any chance. I am certainly not. I have to remind myself to just stay. Be okay with finding peace in the moment, because he will lead you to the next step. And the next step is even better than what you thought.
Wow. That's really profound. Jazz, you got any thoughts? What about that for you? Like, how do you go with just when God's like, no, not yet, and you just have to stay? You know what I mean? Like, is that something that how would you see that applied in your life?
The last 2 years he's been asking me to rest and I haven't, so I'm now burnt out.
Yeah, you're the opposite side of that. You're on the side of, gosh, why didn't I listen?
Yeah.
Literally,
wow. So many things.
And what about, how do you, like, right now, how are you going to be able to find peace? Like, so, you know, Emeka's talking about that whole being able to stay present in a room and actually just find peace in there.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Help us process this then. How do you do that? Like, what switched in you, and how does that, because if people are in here and they're going, yeah, like I'm, you know, I want to be able to find peace, but I don't know how. I feel so itchy or I feel so burnt out. How do I find peace in this?
I think let, I'll go to something that seems really basic, but it's actually so true. Find peace in God's word. Like, and this is not to like undermine what people are already doing or anything, but honestly, I found that I get so much peace. I literally derive so much peace from decision making when I read my Bible more.
Mm.
If I make it a daily practice, and any day I don't, my life looks very different. The challenges, my ability to stay put is a lot more. It's a lot more difficult when I don't incorporate the very practical aspect thing of literally just opening that Bible and reading a couple of chapters and hearing what God has. Sometimes I read it and I'm like, that made no sense, but great. And I just know that for me, that is a practical outworking of what God uses to help me find peace. And sometimes it is a matter of grabbing control of our minds and our emotion and going, I'm consciously going to choose to hear God. Because the Holy Spirit, He's a comforter, He's a gentle person that doesn't scream at you to do the next thing. He will always, almost always subtly tell you what to do to find that peace. Often we just don't listen because we just are crazily busy. We just want to go, we just want to go to the next room. But I found that when I take that time to just listen, and by no chance am I good at it, but when I do, the outworking of what happens next is peaceful. Then the next thing, it just starts to become easier because with God, all things are really possible.
Well, I think part of it as well is redirect your energy. You know, I think that's part of it. If you're, because I think part of it is, to be fair, I think people read I think people read the Bible and then they're like, but I still feel flat. I still feel empty. Yeah. And so part of it, I think, is sometimes is redirect your energy instead of thinking about what's next. Actually, where are you now? How can you direct those thoughts to what is in front of me right now? What do I have around me? And how do I make the most out of that?
Yeah.
So for instance, I look at it right now, and we're going to get real personal, Jazz. Like the social justice side of things of what you have. And even for us, we've been wanting to develop a property portfolio for such a long time as a family. And every time we get close, it's just the Lord's like, not now, not now, not now. And we're just like, why? It's so frustrating for us. And so and then again, like we just do the next little improvement on our house and then the next little, and you've been to our house, right? And it's had some significant improvements.
So good.
Yeah, but we are constantly going, when's God going to open that next thing? Literally, physically, practically speaking, we've redirected the energy of, because we've gone down the process of looking for houses and looking for units and doing that. We've redirected that time and that energy and that effort into actually just working on our house, because that's all we can control. So
you've taught me that, like, because I remember when we chatted about the whole pilot thing, and you're like, okay, good, you're not feeling like God's saying that, but could you be doing something else? I redirected my energy and
now honestly, because it was a few years ago that you actually started talking about doing your pilot's license, and in all honesty, if you had done that then, you don't have the properties that you've got now. You're on your third property now, and I fully believe that there's more coming for you. But you're on your third property now. You're in the process of getting more business going at the moment, as well as working in businesses as well. So you're well on your way. All of that time and energy would have been directed towards your pilot's license.
Correct.
There's zero chance that you're in the position you're in now.
Just where are you?
And neither of us saw this. No. Neither of us saw this. And same now for you, Jazz, I look at it and go, there is a future that God has for you to do with social justice. And I look at what Emeka's overcome and the pain that he's overcome and the resilience that it's developed. Part of what you're going through now is protecting you for what God has in store for your future. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you learn to overcome this pain now, if you learn the beauty in this moment, if you learn the richness in this moment, that prepares you for when you're working for the UN. That prepares you for when you're working in other countries where you're actually doing aid work, because you're able to actually go, I know what these feelings are like, and I know what it's like to get through them. I think there's something incredibly rich about being able to overcome pain. And if I'm honest, Jazz, you've already overcome significant amounts of trauma and pain in your own life. You've already overcome significant amounts of rejection. And look where you are now. So if you've overcome them then, you're going to overcome them again.
Mm.
And so part of what I want to say to you and to those who are listening is that if you're in the position today where maybe you're in the midst of the pain, you're in the midst of the frustration, you're stuck in that room and you're wanting to get to the next room, let's begin to redirect your energy and go, what do I have around me? For instance, Jazz, you are one of the most intelligent people that I know.
Master's degree.
Yeah, master's degree. There's more in you. I know you're going to do a PhD. You don't know it yet, but you will. You're going to end up doing a PhD, even though you're like, as soon as I said that, you're like, no, yes, I probably will. Shut up, you idiot. Because you're truly intelligent. Part of it is going, God, what do I have in front of me? What is in my hands? You're the boss, but I've got things that I can still control right now. While I can control those variables, I will. And you working out those means that your experiences become richer. And where you are in 3 or 4 years, like Emeka is now 3 or 4 years down the track, is in so much of a completely radically different position to where he thought he would have been. You're going to be the same. And so are others that are listening. And as we learn to overcome, the key part of this verse that each of us have mentioned today, but we haven't really said it. All things are possible with God. We've got 2 choices. We either do it with God or we do it without God. Without God is saying, nice idea, God, but sit in the corner while I give this thing a crack on my own. Yeah. Doing it with God is going, what do you mean you want me to stay present? What do you mean you want me to look around? What do you mean you want me to actually control what's in my hand right now? What do you mean that this pain is teaching me something that's for my entire life? What do you mean that I'm not ready yet for that relationship? And I'm talking to heaps of people that are out there right now. They're like, I just want a husband. I just want a wife. All of those things. It's like, yeah, that's great.
Like that?
Yeah, that's how they sound to me. Anyway, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean I can't have that second or third or fourth property? What do you mean that my business is about to go under? What, like, this doesn't seem right. It's okay. Control the things you can control. Be a good parent, be a good daughter, be a good sister, be a good father, be a good mother. They're the things that you can control. You can control your character.
Yep.
You can control that. You can control how you trust in God. They're things that you can control. And part of that is actually being comfortable with where you are. And so that's where we're going to land today is to go, you have the ability. I think that's a beautiful place to land is if one point that we want to get out of today is this one right here. Be okay to stay to determine your next step. Have a look at what God's got in around you. Mackie, you provided us with some incredible insight today, some great thoughts, and we've been so blessed to have you here. It won't be the last time. There's so many more stories that you've got to tell. And hey, maybe we can do one at some point about even specifically for those who are interested. Maybe Emeka and I will catch up about specifically what you did to be able to start to develop that property portfolio, how you saw God move in those areas, and how others can do it as well. But hey, thanks again for tuning in. You've been listening to Lunch Out Loud with Simo and Jazz. As we get together, we do discipleship. We tell you guys the truth about who we are and our mess, and our trust in God will hopefully help us all move towards a better future together. Thanks again for joining us. God bless you guys. We've really hoped that you have enjoyed today. See you next week where we're going to have more conversations. We might even bring in another guest. We'll see. We'll see. Who knows what we've got planned next week.
Sounds good.
Bye, guys.